Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night from wherever you're watching this video from. And today we're taking a flight to the United States of America, that is in a specific place called Minnesota, as they would say Minnesota. I'm not from there, so I'll call it as I'm supposed to call it. I'll call it Minnesota. It's getting hard and very tough for the Somali community in Minnesota, especially after the major scandals that are coming up to the light of the day, things that have been happening underground. No one has been speaking about it, or even there are those people who knew it, they have not been speaking about it. And it started very simple: a battle between President Donald Trump and Republican Representative Congresswoman Omar Ilhan Omar. And people say that it will come and it will go. And it's kind of Ilhan Omar told Trump, "Come on, let's play this game," because she thought she's well connected and she has a lot of things that she's gonna work on. It's like, hey, Trump, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. She just thumped herself because she knew, being an American citizen, there's no more that Trump can do. They will talk, and things will come to an end. But it dug deeper, and it was discovered that her being in the US, she's illegal in the US because she lied. And there are some documents that are proving that she married her brother for her to gain a legality to the United States. And that is where everything is. There are more receipts that are showing that she has married very many other people, very several husbands in the US, and that was just a way to get legitimacy for her stay in the US so that she can run whatever she's running. And as people thought it's over and things gonna be better for them, there is more and more evidence that is linking her to very many other fraudulent activities back in the United States, specifically in Minnesota. And these things are really, 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 really tough, and people are talking about it. And this one might link all these people, or might lead to a complete deportation of very many Somalis who are linked to these schemes back to their own country. But is Somalia a better place that someone can stay? Yeah, for those who've been there, but Somalia is a war-torn nation. It has been in war ever since, and it's not a safer place for most of these people. And that is what Trump has been talking about when he talks. Ilhan Omar talks. Uh, Trump refers to Somalia as a nation that doesn't have a leader, doesn't have an army, doesn't have anything. A nation where people are fighting people are fighting each other each and every time. People are killing each other unnecessarily. And we just want to look into some of the things that some of the scandals, major scandals that are involving the Somali community in Minnesota. So currently, Minnesota has seen several high-profile fraud cases, primarily targeting federal and state-funded social service program, with the majority of the defendants being members of the state's large, small Somali American community, the largest in the U.S. These schemes exploited relaxed COVID-era oversight in child nutrition, autism therapy, housing assistance, and other programs. Total losses are estimated in the hundreds of millions to potentially billions, though exact figures vary by source. Every source is giving a different figure. And remember, there is a rumor that most of these people have been having, that there is a plan for the Somali people to take over the US. And they are doing things in a very systematic way. And that is why we have Somali representatives in the higher offices in the US, which is one of the strategies. But this is not something that started yesterday. It's something that has always been there, because the Somali, not just the Somali, but the Muslim people, the Muslim believers, have had a long-term plan to make Islam, to bring Islam in every nation, or bring every nation to submission of Allah, their God, and Islam. So it's not something new to most of the people. But the problem is, you wonder who are the people who are trying to help them, for them to realize what is happening here. So, number one, we talked about feeding our children. That is child nutrition program fraud. That is one of the schemes that I've been using, and this scheme happens to be the largest known scheme involving close to 250,000 to $300 million in federal funds meant for feeding children during the pandemic. Defendants set up fake meal sites, submitted inflated or false claims for millions of non-existent meals, and used proceeds for luxury cars, real estate, real estate in US, Kenya, and Turkey. They went to expensive vacations and jewelry, and over 78 people charged. Most Somali American non-profit founders. Amy Book is white but convicted as a ringleader. So dozen convicted or pleaded guilty, and trials are ongoing on this. And this is a question that most people have been asking. There are very many high-rise buildings in Kenya, and all of these are buildings that are known to be funded and owned by Somali people. And people have been asking, where do the Somali people get money? This is a question that is in Kenya. Where do the Somali people get all this money? Because they are doing greater things, big things, and they have the money to fund and bring these projects to completion. So where are they? Where have they been getting all this money? The answer is here already. The answer is here already. So we no longer need answers on the same. There is another fraudulent activity that happened. This is an autism therapy service fraud that is in between 14 to $220 million defrauded from Medicaid, early intensive development and behavioral intervention program. Providers recruited Somali parents, falsified autism diagnosis or services using unqualified staff, and billed for non-provided therapy. Multiple charges, including one defendant linked to feeding our future. Another fraudulent activity that has happened that has linked the Somali community to the same is housing stabilization service fraud. Hundreds of millions from Medicaid program for homeless support services, fake companies billed for non-existent aid, fraud tourism noted, out-of-state individuals exploiting the program. Maybe that is some of the high-rise buildings that are coming up in Kenya. And if that is true, then I know the US government will freeze all these assets, or they will take control of these assets to try to regain their money that they've lost. Another fraudulent activity that happened is childcare or daycare fraud. Historical, that is in 2018, reported reports of over $100 million in childcare assistance program overbilling. And the recent allegations, there is in 2025 viral video of an active daycare receiving millions, prompting FBI surge linked to brother patterns in Somali-run centers. This is a US-based content creator who visited those child cares and discovered that there are no children in those child care centers. There are no children in those child care centers. Most of these child care centers are in Minnesota, and they discovered that there are no children. When they went in to check whether there are children in those places, they discovered that there are no children completely. So where is that money going? They know much better, and as FBI checks in them, hey, it's not easy. As the FBI checks in this to try to discover what really happened, maybe we'll have more light on the same. It will shed more light on the same. Overall patterns: fraudsters created shell companies, non-profit submitted phony invoices and paid kickbacks. Most of the defendants are Somali American citizens or immigrants. Community leaders note this involves a small subset, not the whole diaspora. That is how they will defend themselves. A key thing in the Quran. We'll talk about that some other time. So funds often laundered overseas. That is mostly commonly in Kenya due to stability, some to Somali in China. And the controversies on this will be terrorism links. Conservatives outlets alleged funds supported Al-Shabaab via remittances and extortions. Federal prosecutors and investigators said that no direct evidence of money of such a kind that was linked to Al-Shabaab activities Money primarily spent on personal luxury, treasure, FBI investigating, but no charges filed on the same. On the political context, cases highlighted in 2025 amid immigration debates, Trump administration entered the TPS for some Somalis, deployed ICE and FBI resources, criticized Governor Tim Walz for oversight lapses, e.g., fear of racism accusations, relaying actions. Community impact: Somali Americans report increased stigma. Suspicions: advocates urge scapegoating, ignores contributions, and targets minority groups. So that is what has been happening in the US currently, and the investigations ongoing with FBI surged resources in 2025. Over 90 people charged across schemes, many convicted. State implemented reforms for better oversight. And the march is still going on. The march will still continue happening. But do you think what's happening? Do you think the ICE activities, those guys who are in charge of deporting the illegal immigrants back to their own nation, and do you think this thing will affect more Somali people more than ever? And if it truly affects them, if all these Somali people go back to their own country, do you think they're in a position to make their country a better place for each and every person to stay there? And what about the case of Ilhan Omar with Donald Trump? Do you think the Senate will impeach her? Do you think she'll be impeached, or do you think she will still remain to be one of the congresswomen?